All
Yeah.
right. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here at the Teammates Masterclass. This is going to be all about the 5-step framework for getting on the same team as your partner. And I'm really thrilled to have you all here today. So
Yeah,
I would love if you are not muted, please go ahead and mute yourself. And then I just want to get a little idea of who's here in the room with me this morning. So we're going to open your chat up. And I'm going to ask first, if you love love, and drop a 1 in the chat. Get everybody awake and engaged this morning or this evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you. Okay, drop a 2 in the chat if you want more love. Is this something you want more of in your life? Got some 2s coming in. All right. What if you drop a 3 if you want more, if you want to be able to share more love? Drop a 3. I see that I'm surrounded by my people. I love this. Number 4, drop a 4 if you know you can experience more love. Sweet. And number 5, drop a 5 if you want some help figuring out how to level up in love. Where my 5's at. Yeah, all right. I'm totally in the right spot. You're totally in the right spot. This is what this is going to be all about. We've got 90 minutes together. We might end a little bit early. We'll see how we're going, and we'll save some room for Q&A too. Oh, that's Ben's priority. All right. So who's in the room? Let's see who's here. Choose which one fits you best. And there may be 2. So go ahead and figure out which best for you. Number 1, if you are dating. Number 2, if you're engaged. Number 3, if you're married. Number 4, if you pass the 5-year mark together. Number 5 has been more than 10 years. Number 6 has been over 20 years. And number 7, if it's complicated. Nice. Some variety here. 1, 6. Wow, over 20 years. More than 10 years. I love this. 3 and 6. Married. Awesome. And no worries. Take care of the baby. All right. Wow, 24 years this year. That's amazing. I love it. Celebrating, you guys. All right. So for those of you who don't know me already, this is a very brief introduction to me. I've done a few things. I love speaking. I've worked for a variety of places, including doing leadership development at Amazon for about 5 years. And I wrote a best-selling book called Relationship Agreements. And then my husband and I have a chapter about our love story featured in the Chicken Soup for the Soul, the Miracle of Love edition. And I've been featured in places like the Huffington Post and worked with schools and companies, including Microsoft and MIT. So just a little bit about me. But what I really want to say is that I am super passionate about love and relationships and pretty much have been my entire life. So these are the words that I heard come from my husband's mouth. One night he said, "This relationship is no longer working for me." And I remember feeling absolutely frozen. We were sitting on a bed together in the afternoon in our house about 5 years into our marriage. And we had our afternoon check-in and the kids were away playing. And I remember when he said this, I was absolutely shocked. And while I wanted to fight back, a part of me was also thinking, yeah, me too. This is no longer working for me. And I thought, what the heck is happening in my life? And what are we going to go from here? Before I tell you more about that and what happened afterwards, let me rewind the story a little bit. My husband and I have been together for a while. Spoiler alert, we're still together. And it's been 8 years now, over 8 years now. But this point in our marriage, we just hit this place where things were not working out the way we wanted. So we had been, I've been a relationship coach for over a decade now, and really passionate about learning about love and relationships pretty much my entire life. My parents taught marriage classes at my church growing up, and they still have a beautiful model of relationshiping together. And for me, it was like this thing that I always desired, right? I loved watching the Disney movies and getting sucked into the story and imagining finding my prince and riding off into the sunset. And here I was in this beautiful marriage, and things were just, they were working, but they weren't working the way that we'd wanted or the way that it used to feel, right? In the beginning of a relationship, it can be so easy to feel like you're on the same team, to feel like you really are there together. And then over time, things happen. And even though we'd been acquiring tools and practicing all these things and really doing our best, we still weren't finding what was causing the disconnect, causing why we had lost the sense of team that we had in the beginning over time. So what I discovered was that so much of what we were doing was sweeping things under the rug, right? We were having all these beautiful moments where life was wonderful and we were great at parenting and we were great in our careers. And for a long time, we were really, really great in our relationship too. But then these patterns started developing. And with these patterns, we started flipping into, I would call it the mess. And when conflict would come up, most of the time, like if it was a big conflict, we would use the tools. We had tools to work through conflict. It was like, but we only saved them for really big things. And so what I noticed over time was that we had these patterns within us that were really holding us back. So for me, I would do this thing called fawning, which is people pleasing. And I would take a situation that's causing some tension. And in order to make it not such a big deal, I would sweep it under the rug because it was just a small thing. It wasn't a big conflict. Or if I had something I really desired, or maybe even just medium desired, I would get nervous about asking for what I wanted because I didn't want to rock the boat or I didn't know how you'd feel about it. And soon I found that I was sweeping more things under the rug. And my husband was not always feeling considered and he was taking things so personally. And after a while, it was just like we had developed these systems that were more like band-aids than actually solving anything. And even though we had these tools, it was still like really clinky. And at some point, it just wasn't working. It just weren't. And we hit this wall of like, boom, this is no longer serving us. And what are we going to do? And so it's like at that point, you look down, you see all the crap you put under the rug, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's all there. This is not working. Now what are we going to do? And so this is when I heard that phrase. And we had walked into the room, we sat down, we started talking, and we were sitting on the bed. And I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, like there's something in what you're saying that's totally right. I could feel my stomach in knots, and I could feel my throat closed up. And I wanted to fight back, and I'd be like, no, this relationship is totally working. What do you mean? Or to like put it on him, be like, you're not trying hard enough, or to become a victim and be like, I'm doing my best, and instead there was something inside of me that was like, yeah, like this version of the relationship is no longer working for me. And I'm curious if you've ever thought that about your partnership before, if you ever thought this relationship is not working for me, whether or not you've pushed through it or you have decided to act on that or speak that. It's like that feeling is way more common than I think a lot of people want to admit, that this relationship is no longer working for me. So now what are we going to do? And we had a choice. We had a big choice. And it felt like we had a little time pressure of like, what are we going to do? Because if we get to the point where we're actually speaking this and we both felt it, it was like, okay, where are we going to go from here? And for those of you who don't know, I don't know why it's not showing up. You're not getting any of the pictures, but there there should be a picture of all of us, all of our weddings on here. So my husband and I get married every year, and we choose to remarry. And the thing about this is that it's really beautiful choice. And so at this point in our marriage, we've been remarried 5 times. And we were coming up, 5 times. We were coming up on the 6th wedding. And we were like, okay, well, are we choosing to get remarried? If this relationship isn't working, are we going to get remarried, or is it time for like a relationship shift? What's going to happen? And it was this really strange time for both of us where we were like, well, I love you. And our commitment to each other was to keep growing together, to keep being a team. And it doesn't feel like we're doing that in the way that we want. It's no longer serving us. So we had a little bit of, for me at least, I felt like we need to decide, are we going to remarry? And at the time, neither of us felt like that we wanted to. So then what does that mean? Because we're also parents. And what does that mean? Because we also do love each other. And we had been trying, but we also noticed that we hadn't really been seeking anything that was different. We'd been consuming so many of the same things that other people consume, right? All the other band-aids that are out there for relationships. So we decided we'd create a plan and try a new approach. And this time we really, like, on top of all the trainings we'd done, on top of all the coaches we'd work with and therapists we'd work with, we really wanted to approach this from a new angle and figure out, like, what are we missing? If we are not able to figure this out, a relationship coach and this, if you know Jamin, he's like specializes in helping people answer the question, you're successful now what? And he's so good at figuring out these tools and using them with me. And it's like, if we couldn't figure out, then what? And so we're like, there has to be something else. There really has to be. So we created a plan where we were going to go off on some individual soul searching journeys, get a lot of support, and do more research on like what can we be doing differently? And what we found is it was taken on this beautiful journey for each of us individually, where we really cultivated this sense of what's going on for us individually. What were my trauma responses, and how was I bringing that into our partnership? And how was I using tools as a band-aid instead of really getting to the heart of what was there and really understanding the root, right? So going even deeper than we had before. Now, all of this sounded really good, but there was still that time pressure of like, are we going to get remarried? And we weren't sure. So what we decided is this is where our desire to be together really met this place of okay, but here's the conflict. Like, this isn't working. So we had this crazy idea. We decided that we were going to not just get remarried again. Instead, we were going to a different kind of ceremony without knowing what was going to happen afterwards. And what we decided to create was a relationship death ritual, or a relationship death ceremony. And it was wild, you guys. It was absolutely wild. So I felt very called to go to this, the base of this giant volcano in Bali. And Jamin, if you know Jamin, he also like loves designing things, and he has his own fashion line, which is crazy. And he designs these beautiful outfits that were black, mostly black with some white, for like symbolizing mourning and death. And we called 2 of our closest friends who had witnessed most of our journey, our relationship journey, to be there with us in this mountain. And we got together on that evening, and it was so powerful. We came together releasing the things, like speaking the things that weren't serving us anymore. All the things that I had been doing, I took responsibility for, that weren't serving our marriage. And he took responsibility for all the things that he was doing that weren't serving us. And together we said, what do we want to bring in to the next version of us? What do we need to let go of to be better teammates? What do we need to bring in to be better teammates? How do I need to show up in order to have this love that I say that I want? And it was bringing all this knowledge and support with us, and having our friends there to witness and hold us accountable. And I think this accountability was such a huge and important piece for us. So we went through this not knowing what was going to happen. And on the other side, there was this incredible spaciousness, like speaking all these skeletons in the closet, bringing out all the crap that was under the rug, holding it up in front of us and looking at us and being like, this is not what we want. And we have the power to choose something different. And we're going to look at how we can really show up together and creating a better teamwork going forward together is exactly what we wanted. And what was really beautiful to the other side of that ceremony, it felt like we had rediscovered each other. We had found each other a whole new way. And it was so beautiful. It was so magical. And it felt like we had almost just gotten remarried again. And it was perfect because the way that these outfits were designed, it was really like he hadn't planned this originally, but it was like in the moment we discovered that if we took off the top robes, we were already in white outfits, like as if we had been through this grief and mourning, had to let go to create spaciousness to be remarried into this new version of us. So while we were done being in a relationship with the old version, we knew that it was time and there was space now for this new version of us together. So this is our post ceremony. We're like, oh my gosh, this feels so amazing. I can't believe this happened. Because going in, I really felt like, wow, what happens if this doesn't work? What happens to us if we can't find a way back to each other and can't find a way to really understand love at a level that we have not yet grasped? So it was incredible, absolutely incredible. And the big thing that I took away from all of this was that even after so much of my life being dedicated to like understanding the tools and going to the workshops and working with the people, it was I still wasn't fully understanding the root. And I didn't understand where these ideas were coming from in my head and my heart and my body and in my husband's head, heart, and body about what love is and how we're supposed to love and how, I hate the word supposed, how we can love fully. And in this process, this is where I discovered something that was missing. And it was this idea that we need to relearn love. All of us. All of us need to relearn it. We've all learned love in some place, in some way that is not the healthiest version of us, right? So for me, it's like, oh, those Disney films had a big influence. Growing up in a conservative Christian church in the Midwest America, it gave me a big influence. You know, what did my parents do well? What did they not do well? How did I have a healthy relationship with my mother and with my father or not? Now, and all these things influence us. What did I see my parents model? And even if your parents, if you had a parent who wasn't present, that was modeling something for you, right? Or if they fought a lot, that was modeling something for you. So we all learned love in somewhere along the line, usually even before the age of 7. And we don't take the time in general, I didn't at least, to really understand the origin and how that origin impacted me as I was growing up and how my trauma, and I use trauma the trauma is used a lot these days. And so I want to be careful on how I'm using this word. I'm going to use it in a very light sense in terms of maybe you were lying in your crib and you were crying and your mom walked towards you to pick you up, but then the doorbell rang. So she turned around to get the door first and you just saw her walk away in your time of need. And this caused some trauma within you. This sense of, I don't have the tools to deal with what's going on. I don't know what's happening. How do I survive in this confusion and all these big emotions? So we all have this trauma and it's there before the age of 7, intentionally, unintentionally, it happens to all of us. And I really had to come to understand how that was playing out in my life in a way that I could not see before. And what I did is I started bringing that into my life in new ways and then using it with my clients and combining all these different things I had learned from working with the Gottman Institute and erotic blueprints and working with my therapist and working with, like every little piece came into place. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what we're missing. We're missing this idea that we need to relearn love. So from there, I just want to question you guys. Just pause for a moment. Where did you learn love? So if you want to drop some ideas in the chat, I would love to hear. Where are some places that you learned love? What influenced you? Any thoughts? Where did you learn love? The movies, music. Oh, yeah, movies. And of course, my family. Yep. Yeah, there's so many places. The movies, the music, the religious communities, the schools, or grandparents. Yep. Or, a lot of times we didn't learn about love in school, right? This would have been a great place to learn about love and relationships and how to communicate better, and we didn't. So this is really important, really, really important. Let's take a moment and just receive a breath together. That was a lot of storytelling. Ah. We're gonna do that one more time, and I invite you to try it, but use, go ahead and make a sigh out of your voice if you can. And Ben says church, thank you. So we're gonna make a sigh if you can. That sound that you make when you sigh relaxes your vagus nerve and helps you feel safe and grounded in where you are. So let's go ahead and receive a breath together. Ah, beautiful. Thank you. So taking that idea that we all need to relearn love, now I want to bring this into what we came here today for, of like, okay, but what are some things that we can do to actually make this work? And there's several different frameworks that I use. I have a big one is called the relearn love model, which we won't go into today, but I do want to talk about teammates because it's fun and this is so important. And it's going to give you the big picture of how you can really get on the same team. So I'll go through each one. So if you have your pen and paper, now's the time to really be taking some notes. All right. So step number one, it's funny. I was making this and I'm using all these teammates, like sports ball, sports ball references. I'm not so super into athletics, as much as, unless you consider dance an athletic, in which case I'm very much into athletics. But in this idea of playing on a team together, it was really beautiful for me to look at what my children are doing with their football team, their soccer team, and just be like, oh, what beautiful inspiration of how people come together and how they can really work. So this is where we're going to be going with the teammates framework. So step number one is to get in the locker room. So the idea is that so many times we think that we are playing the same game as our partner, but we're not. We learned love and relationshiping from two totally different models. Like where you grew up and who influenced you is very different from where they grew up and who influenced them in this model of love. So the first step is really choosing to have this mindset of like, oh, I thought I knew what I was doing, but I didn't. So I need to learn a whole new way, and I'm choosing to put on the same jersey as you and play together. So this is this idea of mindset of like, you can't, people say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and of course you can. So you need to start to adopt this idea that if I'm thinking about it, I can choose to be on the same team as my partner again. It was there once before, and and it can come back again if it's faded at all. And if it hasn't faded, amazing. I love this. Congratulations. And sometimes we go in waves, right? And sometimes you feel more like a team and sometimes you don't. So just noticing it, where's my awareness? Where's my focus? Where's my mindset right now? Do I believe that I can play on the same team as my partner? Okay. Step number two is what I call the pre-game warm-up. This is really about understanding that when you come together as a team, you can't just like start the game. You have to warm up. You have to get space ready for that. So how are you creating spaciousness in your relationship for the big emotions, for whatever is coming down the line, for the game? So in this, it's choosing to consciously create space for the relationship itself. If you've heard me talk before, you've read my book, I talk about this concept of Fred. Fred being, there's three entities in a relationship. There's you, there's your partner, and there's the relationship. The relationship I refer to as Fred in my work. It's like a little fuzzy blue monster that represents our relationship, that represents the love and the time and the attention and nurturing that needs to go into it. So how are we thinking about this and not thinking about just me or just them, which we can do? Like I see some people very focused on themselves, some people focus so much on their partner, but how do we create space for the relationship itself to be nurtured? And how am I setting us up for success by creating invitations instead of forcing somebody to play a game that they may or may not be available to play. I'm going to be creating so many invitations saying, hey, babe, can we have this conversation? Hey, babe, would you like to go on a date? Hey, babe, are you open to talking about this more touchy subject together? Can we create some space for that? This is really important. These invitations and the spaciousness creating is really where you're getting your nervous system ready to be together. And so many of the complex situations that I see with people when they feel like they're not teams on a same team anymore is because they don't feel like they have that spaciousness. It feels like they're just kind of thrown into a game all of a sudden, or they're running away from it because they just don't want to be involved because they don't know what's going to happen and it feels unsafe. Step number 3 is to welcome the away team. So let me tell you what I mean by that. Welcoming the away team is really about noticing the things that are happening internally for you. Your internal landscape is so massive, and so is theirs. And if you've been together for more than 2 months, then you know that your lives are not the same over time, right? You're not the same person as you were when you met. You're not the same person as 6 months ago. You won't be the same person six months from now. You're continuously evolving, and you might be able to feel that within yourself. Sometimes it's harder to feel in your partner, or vice versa. But for most people, there's this like belief that the person you're sleeping next to is the same person that you married or that you got together with originally, and that's just not the case. You two have evolved so much, and you're going to continue to evolve. So creating spaciousness to understand the internal landscape and what's happening for you both is massive. And when I say the away team, I mean there's all sorts of things that are going to feel like they're coming in to cause conflict. In any relationship, there's 3 phases. There's harmony, disharmony, and repair. And we move through them continuously. And that's what makes the harmony so beautiful, because we've tasted the disharmony. And the couples that are most successful are those that can get to the repair really quickly. So when we're doing this, when we're welcoming a away team, we're looking at what are these elements that create the disharmony? And I'm going to say that 3 big ones stand out that you should be aware of. One, the elephants in the room, the things that you're feeling that you're not saying. Because I don't think we really understand in general about how much our nervous systems are communicating with each other all the time. So if you are feeling something nervous, if you're feeling some elephant in the room that is unspoken, your partner can, at least the animal part of them, can feel that something is off. They may not know what it is, but they can feel something is off. And that already is adding to a little bit of the friction between you both. The second piece is expectations. We have so many expectations and assumptions. So many expectations and assumptions that we throw on our partner. Yeah, Lotus. Yeah, you can feel it. Some people are more sensitive than others, but we all do feel it. It's just maybe some people are more sensitive than others to it. So the expectations and assumptions, same thing. Again, you grew up learning how to play the game on different games, really, except the fact that your idea of relationshiping and being in love and taking care of each other is very different, and you don't understand the half of it unless you talk about this all the time. And I talk about this all the time with my husband, and I still don't understand him. But we're trying to get there. But noticing when you have an expectation or assumption and being able to speak about it and own it, and not just think that's how it's supposed to be. And I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of couples at this point around the world, and every person's version of love and what they are thinking about at their heart, and what they desire when they're really truthful themselves is different. Every single one, and how they get it. We all want to be loved. We all want to be seen, heard, and loved. And how that looks in real life is different for every single person. So what are your expectations and assumptions? Anytime there's an expectation or assumption, this is going to be one of those things that is potentially causing conflict if it's not talked about and made sure that's that invitation to do something together, right? It's creating the spaciousness is better than creating the And then the third piece to be aware of is emotions. Most of us didn't learn emotional hygiene, we like to call it. Most of us did not receive the emotional potty training that we could have when we were children. And this is the big piece. These big emotions come up. We don't know what to do with them. Most of us go into our trauma responses, which is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And we don't know how to be with the emotions, to let them be in motion in a healthy way that doesn't blame, shame, gaslight our partner. And then we also don't know how to let our partner have their emotions without taking it personally. It's a big freaking deal. So how can you really welcome and learn about emotional hygiene? Welcome the emotions. They're just messengers. They just got something to show you. That's like your body's inner wisdom that there's something going on. And hey, this is a chance for you both to level up. It's not like you're just dating. Now you guys are in a partnership and you have the chance to do something that I didn't understand years ago. I didn't understand how much medicine I had for my husband to heal, from his journey from growing up and the messages he received about love and relationships. And I didn't understand how much medicine he had for me. And this is really important. This is where the relearn love concept comes in that I wish I had known about a long, long time ago. So how can you really welcome the away team and notice, be aware, and learn how to speak into the elephants, the expectations, and the emotions? Let's receive a breath. I need to breathe. Oh. All right, you guys are hanging in there. Give me a 1, drop a 1 in the chat if this is resonating with you. And I'll go on to step number 4. Drop a number 1 if you're here. If this is, yep, this is hitting something and you're like, yep, felt this. Oh, this is interesting. Great, thanks guys. All right. Step number 4 is game time. Game time. So this is, you've come into the locker room, you've got this awareness, you've done your warm-ups, you've created the space, the invitations, you've welcomed the away team, the things that cause conflict, and here we are, it's game time. Now we're in the relationship. Now we're really fully in, and we can be present with what's there for real instead of all this pressure and conflict-causing crap that's around us. This is where we get to talk about our vision. This is where we get to rekindle trust if it's been broken. This is where we get to show our soft underbelly and be vulnerable. And I have this tool that I love, 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 love. And I'm still jokingly creating a name for it. I'm not jokingly creating what some of my clients call it the IMDb. If you're familiar with the Internet Movie Database, and how you can look up movies and you can see the ratings and how people are and how movies are performing and learn all about it. This is kind of that. We're going to learn all about each other and what's alive and present for us. And this is where I have the IFDBR. So this stands for intentions. So go ahead and write this down. This is interesting to you. Intentions, fears, desires, boundaries, and requests. So these 5 elements are really important for playing the game together. How do you talk about where you're at? How do you talk about what is your vision together and what you desire? And this can be a super helpful tool for really talking together about, okay, what is, you even talk about the relationship. So if we're sitting down and doing a little check-in of how is the state of our union, then I'm going to look at what do I really want in our team? What do I really want in how we're showing up together? What are my intentions for this relationship? And it could be time boxed. It could be like, oh, what are my intentions for the next week? It could be, what are my intentions for the long term, for the 5-year, 10-year, 30-year plan? And then what are my fears? And I like to start small. Like I like to start with something that's very like in the next month, right? In my next month, what are my intentions for our relationship? What are my fears around what's going on or what could potentially go on? Like our family is getting ready to travel right now. So what are my fears around how we're going to stay connected during 100 days on the road, and speaking to her and all of that? And then what are my desires? My desires are like, what do I want right like now? Like, is there a tangible thing that I want to just express that this is really important to me? So it could be something like, hey, I have a really deep desire to spend some time exploring massage together in the next month. And then boundaries. Do I have any boundaries that I feel like I need to hold? Like, for example, in this next month, on top of getting ready to leave, I also am creating a new course for all of you out there. And so I need to also be able to have some extra time to prioritize making sure that Relearn Love is in a really good place so that when we're traveling, people feel supported. And so with that, I need a little extra time to go to another, we call it a third. So there's our relationship, and then anything outside of the relationship, children, career, whatever, maybe that's a third. So how do we manage our thirds? And so for this, my boundary is gonna be, hey babe, I'd like to have a set date night because I'm going to have to really plan my schedule even more carefully during this prep time as I'm making the course. And then requests. What requests do you have? Are there anything that would feel really meaningful to you? So if saying like, babe, like in this time, my request would be that we prioritize our relationship by having a set date night, and I would like to request that that maybe you could tune in and really try to give me a little bit of the 5 love languages, a little bit of touch feeding every day. Or quality time, even if it's just like a 2-minute drop in and embrace. So that would be my request. So this can be a really helpful tool for you. If you think that this is interesting or might be helpful for you, the intentions, fears, desires, boundaries, and requests, go ahead and drop a 1 in the chat. Let me know that this is landing. Hey, great. Awesome. And the last step, and equally important step, is our victory celebration. If you have seen the Reeler in Love model, if you've worked with me before, you know how important the celebration is. Celebration is huge. We just don't do it as a culture in general. We're constantly on this treadmill of go, 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 go. But if you're going to be a team, you have to celebrate your victories. You have to celebrate even the small wins. If you're waiting until you win the championship, you're losing so many opportunities to build momentum together. This is really, really important. And this is going to help you guys remember that you're a team and come back to each other again and again and again. All right, let's receive a breath. Ah, beautiful. That was a lot. I'm going to invite you to stand up, take a little shake, breathe, stretch. Got a little bit more to go. I know I'm like throwing a lot at you all, and I hope this is going to be really helpful for you along your journey. I do want to share with you more about my journey about Reeler in Love. I mentioned this several times, and so we're going to move into that space and with your permission. So soon I'll be talking about Reeler in Love and what it's like to explore that together. But before we do, I want to bring us to 3 big mistakes that I see couples make often. And so the first one that I want to share is that I really invite you not to get stuck in the system. Really not to get stuck in the system. So I'll give you a little story. First, let me share this from Sarah. Sarah and I worked together for a while. She went through my Reeler in Love program with her partner, and it was amazing to hear what she had to say, and I'll explain a little bit why. Here's what she said first of all. She said, "It's been a wonderful experience working with Ari. On a walk this morning with my girlfriend, I was telling her how my husband and I have made more progress and peace after 1 month at the Ari's tools and tips and guidance than 1 year in couples therapy. The therapist was great, but our life was transformed by the tools and techniques that Ari gave us, which the therapist didn't do much of. Working with Ari was a compassionate experience where I was allowed to feel everything and not be judged or analyzed." So here's the thing. When I say that you can't keep looking for a tool, you can't be stuck in the same system. I see this happen again and again and again. I see couples go to Band-Aids. They go looking for these things that are only going to give short-term results or will take forever to get to where you need to go. And I did this too, right? I was looking for all the answers to my relationship stuff, my challenges, and podcasts and reading every book. I'm not saying there aren't wonderful tools in these places. But if you want to solve the problems and you want to collapse time, you really need to go to the source. And the source was really me understanding, like, where did we learn love? And how is that influencing us today? And that is just not present in most of these places. I mean, I did tantra retreats and I learned about kink and I learned about communication skills. I did podcasts, I worked with therapists and coaches, and like, I was just all over the place. But for me, it was really like, don't get stuck in a system that wants to just keep you going. Most therapist models it's talk therapy, and it's not bringing the somatic experience. It's not really it's not teaching you to go deep into the emotions most of the time. And I'm not knocking therapists. I have one of my own. I love them. But there is something to be said about more of a holistic environment where you get to go deep, learn the underlying challenges that are there, meet one-on-one and be held accountable, and really learn the tools that will shift things quickly. Because we don't want to be dealing with trying to figure out how to be on a team for 3 years or 10 years. We want to do it now. We want to be on the same team now. I see so many different people get to places like Jamin and I hit where we're like, this isn't working for us. And Jamin and I were really fortunate to be able to choose to create the time and the space and really invest in going to change our relationship and our understanding of relationshiping. And it was through that we learned what else was possible. And I invite people to really look at, like, there may be a different vehicle. There may be a different way of getting to where you want to go faster with more success. I always joke that anybody who comes to me, I'm like, I don't want you to need me in 4 months. If you want to work with me, great, but I don't want you to need me anymore. I don't want you to have to, I wouldn't say that I wasted time. I learned so much. But once I figured this piece out, it was like, oh my gosh, it was like skyrocketing. The other one of the other mistakes I see is don't butterfly. So when I say butterfly, I mean that so many people, I did this too for a little while of my life. They think that they're a unique butterfly. And I joke about that now. First of all, you are special. You are special and unique, and your relationship is unique. And it's also not that unique. What I mean by that is I see a lot of people come to me and they're like, yeah, what you're saying, like all these things, I see that it's worked for hundreds of other couples you've worked with, but I don't think it's going to work for me in my situation. Like, I don't think you understand. And when we start to uncover it, it's always the same. It's always the same. It's like if you have two people, then you have two unique life experiences with your own trauma and your own history and whatever else is there. And when you decide to come together as a team, when you do those things that were in the teammate framework we talked about, when you decide you're going to play on the same game and you want to learn how to do these steps, that's when things really shift. And it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter where you're at right now. Two people who want to make it work, who are open to learning new tricks, to learning new ways of communicating, to looking at themselves and really relearning love, anything is possible. I had one of my clients say this to me before. I said, the main overall theme that has really resonated with me is seeing that with the right skills and commitment, any relationship can turn into magic. And I think that's just the key piece. It's like anyone can do this. So if you're feeling like, oh, but you don't understand my partner, you don't understand my background, or you don't understand our current situation, I would challenge you that maybe that's a belief that's holding you back. Maybe that's a belief that's keeping you separate. It's like going to a therapist. I have several clients who like really like the challenge of, without swearing, let me find a way of screwing with the therapist or trying to screw with the therapist, right? It's like, I'm going to outsmart the therapist. I'm like, why? Why are we playing that game of creating disharmony when the deeper we go in vulnerability, the more we open up, the more we can learn and grow together. So instead of being like, oh, I can't, this won't work for me. It's like, what if it could? What if I knew it was the best route for you that would really change how you're showing up and what's happening? And a third big mistake I see is don't forget that there are two pies. What I mean by that is that a lot of people come, and when they decide they're thinking about, can I actually relearn love? Can I actually show up as a team? There is this belief that pops up over and over again that, oh, no, I don't think so because of my spouse, because of my partner, because we have kids, because there's just not enough time, because that would require too much of an investment of my time, energy, money. I just can't do that. What I want to remind you of is any situation, a lot of times we like to think of it as a pie, right? In any situation in a relationship, we think of it as something occurred and we think, okay, well, here's the pie. What percentage of this pie is mine? And we try to think, oh, well, maybe like 20% of the pie of the situation is mine, but the other 80% theirs. And we kind of place this blame on our partner or on the situation. instead of realizing there are actually two pies, and you are responsible for 100% of your pie, and they're responsible for 100% of their pie. And those two pies together are what really is creating the situation. So if we can accept responsibility for our role, really to hold on to it and say, like, I get to create the reality that I want. I get to play on this team, and how I show up to this team and what I believe about this team is going to change everything, is such a big game changer. Huge. I love this. So Tyler and Caitlin came to me. They're in Seattle, and they're amazing. And they came to me when they were at the pretty much the same place Jamin and I were at years ago. With this relationship isn't working for me. And they came to me like, we just don't know. We just don't know what's going to happen. And we're even, starting to mention the D word, divorce, and look at what's there. And when we started really diving into, okay, but let's talk about love, and let's talk about how you really learn love. This is where the magic came in. And I just loved what Tyler said after we were working together for a few weeks. He said, we were considering separating. The biggest thing that came out of this was us reconverging our life paths, being more understanding of where each other's are coming from, and making it work in a way that feels good and not forced. The transformation was getting both of us on the same page, bringing us to a space of understanding and giving us the same vocabulary and levels of openness when it came to what was possible for our love. This is the big thing. It's like, we think we know what's going on. We think we know what the pie is, but we're only seeing one pie. And when we can see that there are two pies, and we can accept responsibility for ours, and we can shift into this idea that there's so much possible. And it doesn't matter what is happening in your relationship. As long as you both want to play on the same team, that is it. That is it. All right. Woo! So much going on today. Y'all with me still? Drop a 1 if you're still here. Drop a 1 if these 3 mistakes, if you've ever thought about these 3 mistakes as something that has held you back, maybe. If any of these have, yeah, let's do a 2. So we just did 1s. You're here, I got the 1s. Drop a 2 if any of these mistakes have resonated with you. If you've ever felt held back by where you're at in the potential of the relationship, by how you show up, by your partner's ability to show up, by where you place the blame of, like, we can't do that, or I can't have what I want. We can't have that thing because, like, what if you could? What if it was as simple as relearning love and really seeing what's possible there? So with that, thank you guys. I see lots of 2s. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you guys, it as I was learning these things, it just hit me so hard, especially in that place. So the good news is, yeah, and sometimes our partner can feel like we don't show up. And instead of placing blame, this is a really good place to open that invitation, right? Open that spaciousness, the invitation, because when we feel invited into something, we're much more excited to go play, right? Do you want to come play with me? Is way more than get over here and play with me. And it can be so challenging. This is why we don't have to. This is why I would invite you to relearn how you're loving, to relearn love and really notice, like, whoa, where I've come from is greatly influencing where I am and where we're going and how we're playing together. And there's so much possible. Oh my gosh, there's so much possible. So as I mentioned before, I just want to give you guys a little invitation deeper into my world, if you are in. So if you're open to hearing an invitation about what it's like to work with me, can you drop a 1 in the chat? Are you open to that? Thanks, guys. Yay! Awesome. I'm hoping all of this is helpful. All right. So let's just take a moment and think about, imagine, if you will, that you've already relearned love. These things I've talked about today are here. So instead of feeling those eggshells, that you feel fully expressed with your partner. That means you feel seen and heard and loved and acknowledged and accepted by your partner, right? And they feel the same from you. And that you feel like you're actually teammates again, right? So you feel like, oh yeah, maybe you felt that in the beginning of your relationship. Maybe it lasted for a little while, maybe it lasted for a long while. Maybe over time, it's just not as much as it used to be. So imagine that you're here again. You're back in the teammates feeling, and you can just relax. You're like, oh, yeah, that sense of peace come over you again. Just that knowing that you can trust and love, and that you did all the work that it needed to be here. And you figured out how to collapse time so you're not chugging away at this for the rest of your relationship until death do us part. And imagine that you're able to have fun and laugh again, and that there's more ease. You're just able to feel like you're connected, and there's more lightness. And the dates are fun, and you're not worried about, oh my gosh, when is the next conflict coming? And what will I do if that conflict comes? It's like, oh yeah, we can just enjoy each other's company again, like we used to. And that other couples and not just couples, but other people around you are noticing. They're noticing your connection, because who doesn't? I mean, have any of you, let's drop a one in chat. Have any of you ever noticed a couple that like has that zing, that has something magnetic about them, and you just want to, you're like, whoa, I want that. Whatever they ordered, that's what I want to. Drop a one if you've ever met any couple who has inspired you like that before. I could think of at least 3 that I have that inspire me all the time. Yeah, cool. So imagine that you get to have that energy, that you get to be that zinging couple that people look to and they're like, what's your secret? How are you guys doing this? I want that. And you get to share it with them, that it gets to have a ripple effect. That the things you've learned are now spreading to those around you, but it doesn't have to be a secret. Because remember, most of us didn't learn about how to be in healthy relationships. We didn't learn how to love from a really grounded and healthy spot. I want to change the world. I want to change how we love so that more people can have this. I don't want it to be a secret or something that only some people have. It's like, how can we share it with our community? How can we share it with our colleagues? How can we share with our kids? Oh my gosh, if our kids, and our kids they're getting to learn that now, and we're very intentional about it. But if our kids, as the next generation, didn't have the same messages we received, if they learned how to be with their emotions, if they learned how to communicate what they desire, if they learned how to handle conflict without being afraid of it, if they learned how to really love from a place of freedom and safety instead of fear and withholding, then can you imagine the world we would be in, and how many thousands of dollars our children would save in therapy and trying to figure this stuff out? Like, oh my gosh. So when you've relearned love, you get to be this model. You get to be this model for those around you. The world gets to spread. So one of my favorite, my favorite way. I mean, I love doing masterclasses. I love doing workshops. I have several different workshops. I'm creating a new class, and that's coming up soon. But my favorite way to work with people is one-on-one. And so I just wanted to share with you guys that I do have this amazing program that I call the Relearn Love Private Coaching for Couples program. I have one for singles also, but this today is all about couples. That's my sweet spot, and I love working with you all so much. So I just want to let you know that this is available to you, and that I am accepting up to 4 new clients, and that this is where the magic happens. And for some of you, you're going to say, no, not the right time. And that's okay. And there's lots of other ways that you can stay on my newsletters and be involved and come to other master classes. Got this class that's going to be, this course released soon for dating. And it's going to be super fun. And it's going to be more like a dating guide for you to go on some fun and connective dates. It's not going to get to the juice of what we cover in the private coaching, because I can't go into your individual journey the way that I love to with couples. But I want you to know that some of you out there, this is the right time. And if it's not the right time now, then it may be down the line. I just want you to know this is available for you. And getting to work one-on-one is really the sweet spot for me in watching people's lives transformed. I mean, I've worked with everyone from Hollywood actors to doctors and lawyers and tons of tech folk. Oh my gosh, the tech world is got my heart. If you notice, I had one little nerdy reference in there to Star Wars. That's a tribute to all my wonderful techies out there. But this is really where things transform, and where, again, I don't want people to need me in 4 months. I want to teach you everything that I learned over 2 decades plus of research and lots and lots of relationshiping, and going through relationship death ritual and coming out the other side with this crazy understanding of what is possible and why we haven't been able to really figure it out yet. And I want to give that to you. so that you can feel this amazing experience that is there and is totally possible for you. So if this is resonating, you're like, Ari, I really want to learn more. This sounds awesome. Then I just want to invite you to follow this link. I'll drop it in the chat in just a moment. And what is going to happen next is there's a little place you can schedule a discovery call. It's free. It'd be with me and my team. And if you schedule by Friday, then you also get a little surprise bonus from me. So if this is something you're like, wow, I want to explore this more, then before Friday comes, schedule your discovery call with us and we'll get on a call and it's going to be super chill. I don't like using pushy sales techniques. This is really about exploring where you're at in your relationship, giving you some ideas of where you can go next and how you can move forward, and really looking at, is this the best fit for you right now? Because I don't want you to be in this place of not feeling like you're on a team, but to really know exactly where you're going and be held accountable and have fun doing it, and even go on some sexy and educational and fun and sometimes a little weird dates together, so you get to learn these techniques that I learned in a condensed time and you're embodying them. You're having this somatic experience where you're like, oh, I get it. I'm not just doing talk. I'm really learning and we're doing it together. And we have somebody, you have me personally in your back pocket anytime. Like we have WhatsApp support. So you get to feel that, what it's like to be held accountable. So you get to move through and feel like, oh, we're on a team. And when I don't feel like we're on a team, we can get instant access to Ari, or almost instant access. I'm not always on my phone, but near instant access to Ari, so that we can problem solve in real time and move through this instead of repeating the same patterns over and over again. Because we want to feel like we're on the same team. Excuse me. We want to feel that juiciness. So drop a 1 if this is resonating with you as I type this out for you. Who wants to have more love, more teamwork in their relationship? There's a link. All right. So again, this isn't for everyone. If this is for you, beautiful, then go ahead and follow that link and we'll hop on a call together. And for everyone else, I'm hoping that some of the things that we had today that I shared with you are really resonating and that you have some ideas of like, okay, where do we want to go next? What do we want to do next in our partnership? How can we become more of a team? And just know that I am here and I'm cheering you on and I'm supporting you in all of this. All right, let's receive a breath.